Barstool Boss and Pizza Rancour, Dave Portnoy, I don't know, I'm out of my mind today, has blasted the race baiters who believe Caitlin Clark is only popular because she is white.
Got it. Here's a rewritten version of that statement in clear, engaging, and natural language, tailored for an audience aged 30 to 70. Monica McNutt recently said that Caitlin Clark's popularity isn't really about her skills, it's because she's a white girl from the Midwest. According to her, it's not about Caitlin's historic stats, her incredible court vision, or those deep three-pointers that have changed the game. Let me know if you'd like to build this out into a longer segment or commentary.
That is a narrative that is very popular among the morons. Major moron, Monica McNutt, how she has a job, I absolutely know, at ESPN, said, well, you know, she's in the Midwest, she's popular, and let's face it, she's a white girl. Really? Okay, let's examine.
Absolutely. Here's that part rewritten in a clear, punchy way that's easy for a general audience to follow, but Dave Portnoy isn't staying quiet. He's coming in strong with real viewership numbers that completely shut down McNutt's race-based take. And once you see the actual facts, her whole argument just falls apart. If you support Caitlin Clark and don't buy into the nonsense, drop a comment with your city, state, or country. We want to hear from you. Ready? Let's dive in. Want me to keep going with the next part or help turn this into a full video script?
Caitlin Clark is a superstar, not a female superstar. She is a superstar.
We were coming to see Caitlin Clark play.
She moves the needle. The WNBA has been looking for someone who moves the needle.
Here's that section rewritten clearly and naturally for a general audience, aged 30 to 70. Let's talk about the comment that has basketball fans fired up. ESPN analyst Monica McNutt just stirred up major controversy during an interview with BBC's Catty Kay. What she said about Caitlin Clark immediately sparked a storm online, and people aren't letting it go. Want to continue with how McNutt's comment is being received or jump straight into Dave Portnoy's response?
Why her?
Same thing.
Why her?
Well, I was just about to say same thing for Angel Reese when I had a chance to cover their games. But I think Caitlin represented, and again, some of this to me probably is not fair to her because it was not anything that she said or was truly based on her personality, but she was a white girl from the middle of America.
Here's a clean and direct rewrite of that part. McNutt basically claimed that Caitlin Clark is so popular mainly because she's white and from the Midwest, not because of her incredible skill or hard work. That take didn't just rub people the wrong way, it felt like a slap in the face to anyone who's actually seen Clark play. Want to move into how fans or analysts are reacting next?
And so she represented a whole lot to a lot of people, whether that is truly what she prescribed to or not. We can all say she is a dynamic basketball player and a force both on the court and the marketing sense. But I do think same thing with folks that may have fallen in love with Angel Reese that she may or may not have agreed with everything they had to say either. We attach our fandom to these icons for all types of reasons.
Here's a smooth and punchy rewrite of that section. Here's the truth. In her rookie season, Clark averaged 19.2 points, 5.7 rebounds, and 8.4 assists per game. That's not just impressive, it's elite. Her vision, long-range shooting, and game-changing passes have raised the bar for women's basketball. And get this, the Indiana Fever are set to appear in 41 nationally televised games next season. TV networks don't care where a player's from, they care about ratings. Clark brings the numbers, and the audience. Ready to keep going with more rebuttals or wrap it up with a closing statement?
Caitlin Clark, the people's champion! Let's get it!
That's a deep one.
Bang!
Just announced that Caitlin Clark and the Fever will be playing 41 of 44 games this year on national TV. They're coming to watch the other girl, right?
Right? Bang!
Teams are moving their games with the Fever to NBA arenas so they can sell more tickets. How about that?
Bang!
Angel Reese attempted a three this deep. I think she might dislocate her shoulder.
Bang!
You want some butter with that bread? Butter. Butter.
Butter pecan! Bang!
McNutt's take totally overlooks what's made Clark a must-watch star. It's not about where she's from, it's the jaw-dropping plays she delivers night after night. The deep threes from way beyond the arc, the no-look passes that somehow find their target, and the ice-cold performances when the pressure's on, that's what's won fans over. None of that magic comes from being a white girl from the Midwest. It comes from talent, hard work, and guts.
Believe there's actually a debate on who was Rookie of the Year last year. Imagine being that delusional.
Bang!
People need to understand she saved this league. Powder, there's no TV deals, no ad sponsorships, heck, no shoe deals for you, Angel Reese, no McDonald's money. The league losing millions of dollars each year. She saved them from bankruptcy. Time to be grateful.
Bang! 93% of her games on national TV. She's like that! Bang!
Fans didn't waste any time firing back at McNutt's comments. Social media lit up with people defending Clark, calling out how unfair and off-base her take was. One fan summed it up perfectly: if being white and from the Midwest was all it took to become a basketball icon, we'd have a whole league full of Caitlin Clarks. But we don't. Why? Because what sets her apart isn't where she's from, it's her rare, next-level talent that doesn't come around often.
Della Dunn, Sabrina, Brianna, Kelsey, Diana Taurasi. You had and have these white players in the league that never galvanize the people like this. All right. Now, granted, you can have some people come back and say, well, the media and the coverage wasn't as good as it is now. NILs and things like that weren't popping off. That has nothing to do with it. That has nothing to do with it, man. If they were that captivating, they would have got the eyes.
Claiming that Caitlin Clark's massive influence on viewership is mostly because of her race, instead of her once-in-a-generation talent, isn't just wrong, it's unfair. It disrespects the sport itself and sends the wrong message to the many young athletes who admire her, no matter where they come from or what they look like.
But honestly, the main reason is because of her talents. It's not because of her race. Her race has nothing to do with it. Especially with kids. She's saying kids don't see color, man. The kids that I grew up around, and when I grew up as a kid, I didn't see color, man. I did not see color. I didn't care about color. I didn't know what color was. I just knew you were a human being and I was trying to be your friend. It's kind of a crazy, nonsensical take to say that kids were looking up to her because she was white.
What many don't realize is that Monica McNutt's remarks about Caitlin Clark's race aren't just a random hot take. They seem to be part of a larger, ongoing effort to discredit Clark at every opportunity. It goes back to September 2024 when McNutt made the unbelievable claim that Clark only deserved 60% of the credit for the Indiana Fever making the playoffs. Think about that, the Fever hadn't made the postseason in 6 years before Clark arrived, yet somehow, McNutt believed the rookie who turned the team around deserved just over half the credit for their success.
She's been spectacular and exceeded expectations. The pick and roll between Caitlin and Aaliyah has been fantastic. Kelsey Mitchell is having a career year, and all of those role players get a slice. I don't know quite how.
Well, that's a lot of pizza pie. I get you. But there's
sure.
got to be one big slice, and that's Clark. What percentage are we talking about for Caitlin Clark? 80%, 90%, 95%?
Listening to her all season long, I've called a couple of their games. She's team first. Statistically, you're probably looking at least 60%.
Monica McNutt's odd 60% assessment of Caitlin Clark's role in the Indiana Fever's playoff success gets even more questionable when you look at how she talks about other players. For anyone except Clark, McNutt is quick to give full credit for team achievements. But with Clark, suddenly, it's about splitting the credit. Then there was the Rookie of the Year debate, where McNutt strongly supported Angel Reese, even though Clark had a far superior statistical case. McNutt's reasoning? Team success should be the key factor. But hold on, wasn't this the same person who wouldn't give Clark full credit for her team's success? The contradiction here is impossible to overlook.
You would have this guy in the playoffs right now, which means that Angel Reese, in theory, has impacted winning in a greater way. But I think the double-double streak that she's on, the 8 consecutive double-doubles, for Caitlin, she's leading rookies in points, minutes, and assists. There was terrific stats put out over the weekend by our colleague Michael Vopel about the percentage, about her being the player that has seen the most blitzes in the league. And so she's navigating a different level of defensive intensity, and rightfully so, because she's playing a point guard role for this Fever squad. So I think today, looking at the standings, you probably tend to lean Angel.
Basketball fans have caught on to this pattern, and social media is buzzing with calls for ESPN to fire McNutt. Many have pointed out her constantly changing standards for what makes a player great. When Caitlin Clark posts historic numbers, McNutt shifts the focus to team success. When Clark's team does well, McNutt suddenly wants to share the credit with everyone else. And when all else fails, McNutt claims Clark's popularity is due to her race, not her groundbreaking playing style. Fans are fed up, and they're making their voices heard.
Okay. To me, yeah, jealous, sure. I mean, would you be jealous of somebody that got $28 million shoe deal or whatever the deal is before you step foot in the pros, right?
Yeah.
Some critics are accusing McNutt of stirring up racial tension to downplay Caitlin Clark's achievements. The pattern has become so clear that fans from all backgrounds are speaking out, calling it a deliberate attempt to undermine one of basketball's brightest stars. It's becoming hard to ignore how obvious this campaign seems to be.
Well, after the women's NCAA championship, viewership numbers were released where Clark in Iowa set a record for the four most watched women's college basketball games ever. Let me say it again, of all time. That's a lot. Within a 13-month span. So from one Final Four to the other Final Four, the four most watched games ever in the women's Final Four involved Iowa and Caitlin Clark. That's her junior and senior year ever.
Just as the anti-Clark brigade was gaining momentum, Barstool Sports founder Dave Portnoy jumped into the conversation with a statistical knockout that completely debunked McNutt's race-focused argument. Portnoy didn't just share an opinion, he brought hard viewership numbers that told a story McNutt and her supporters can't simply dismiss with words.
People are going to tell you that the reason Caitlin Clark was so popular in college was her rivalry with Angel Reese. Okay, you can tell us that, but based on this sentence right here by Dave Portnoy, there is no Angel Reese. There was no Angel Reese. There was South Carolina. Angel Reese played at LSU.
After the 2025 NCAA Women's Tournament Final, Portnoy took to social media with a straightforward but powerful question. I'm going to need all the race baiters who claim Caitlin Clark's popularity is just because she's white to explain why 10 million more people watched her last year than Paige Bueckers, who's also white. I'll hang up and listen. This MIC drop moment highlighted a tough truth for anyone pushing the race-centered narrative. The 2024 championship game, featuring Clark's Iowa Hawkeyes, drew in a record-breaking audience.
18.9 million, the most ever for a women's basketball game, as opposed to 8.5 million with a white star, Paige Bueckers. Now, the 18.5 million did not involve Angel Reese, as I said earlier. It did not. Actually, it involved USC, South Carolina. Guess who's this year's game involved? That was 10 million plus, down from last year. South Carolina, a big power. It wasn't like all of a sudden San Diego State came into the NCAA Women's Final Four and people are like, yeah, I don't really want to watch that. I like watching powers. This year, you had the two, quote, superpowers of women's college basketball.
The strength of Portnoy's comparison is in its simplicity. If Clark's popularity were really just about her race, as McNutt suggested, then Bueckers, who has the same racial background and comes from Minnesota, should have had similar viewership numbers. But she didn't, far from it. The massive 10.4 million viewer difference completely shatters the race-based theory in one clean statistical blow.
But the two biggest names in college basketball this year, actually the three biggest names, Paige Bueckers, Gino Auriemma, and, of course, Dawn Staley, they were in this Final Four. They were in this championship game. And yet, the ratings tanked. The ratings were over 50% less than the year before.
This wasn't the first time Portnoy defended Clark against what he calls race baiters. Back in December 2024, he passionately argued that Clark's popularity had nothing to do with her skin color. To back this up, he shared a clip of Clark scoring an unbelievable 22 points in just 2 minutes against the Iowa men's practice team, proof of the skill that truly drives her appeal. What makes Portnoy's defense so powerful is that it doesn't just knock down McNutt's argument with a single piece of evidence. It's supported by a clear pattern. Clark's games consistently outperformed men's basketball games in similar time slots. That level of crossover appeal can't be explained by demographics alone.
It's impossible for them to give Caitlin Clark, quote, her flowers without a caveat. That caveat being, it's because she's white. Now, none of these women, Monica McNutt, Uchi Yamaguchi, whatever her name is, whoever that Carter girl is, whoever Elle Duncan is, whoever these people are, none of these women are going to come back and say, yeah, you know what? We might have been wrong about, well, she's a white girl, and that's the reason she's so popular. They'll parse it. They'll say, well, we said how great she is. No. They're either too arrogant or too stupid to understand that what they've said all along about Caitlin Clark is just simply